White Canyon here, Ryan Crawford. Basically just going to start doing a bit of a talk series. I've been meaning to do it for a while, called Inside the Mind. Been talking about it here and there and on posts over the last few months, whether it's after event or lead up to events. Just it's only my take on things, my experiences, just how I use my mind and how I get through my challenges. So today's topics, to start it off with, is basically going to be about, how to get through monster challenges, whether it's a backyard ultra, run it for 1, 2, 3 days, how I get through them, whether it's, doing a start to finish race with massive distance, just basically getting used to running hundreds of kilometers and my take on things I think work to get through it. So for me, we start with, I've got a bit of a list here so I don't get too sidetracked, is the physical conditioning. So obviously I've talked about this a lot before in my posts, but the physical conditioning is a must. So it's not all mental, we'll go into the mental soon, but you need that physical conditioning. You need to be used to doing heavy kilometers, especially for running. Obviously running big distance is you need to do, whether you have done that in events or training or whatever it is, but you need to have learned to push past, pretty decent numbers, because you're not going to all of a sudden just start running 200 miles or whatever your massive goal is if you've only been doing small kilometers. So you can do smaller kilometers in your training blocks if you're rolling them together like different events, and you can use events as your training blocks, or if you've built years of conditioning. So for me, I've done a lot of time where I've had me time of doing, marathon after marathon, 100-mile weeks, 200K weeks, whatever. So I can I've already built the base and the years of conditioning through my other sport with the Muay Thai, and I've got a strong background, so I don't always have to do, heavy kilometers every week. I can utilize the event that I've just done and then roll that conditioning in and, just keep sharp and things like that. That's an aspect. You have to do strength training. You can't just run, okay? You need to build those even when you're doing the Thai boxing, the same thing is you don't just punch and kick. You gotta do squats, you gotta do lunges, you gotta do weight exercises. I like to do high repetition weight stuff, so it's obviously the build of me. I'm not doing heavy stuff. It's good to do sets of heavy here and there, but I like to do higher numbers. So whether you're doing 2-minute exercises of the same exercise, so you're just smashing out that muscle group, getting that fast twitch going, and also just that when your muscles are fatigued, you continually being able to keep using it when the lactic acid builds up. So you need to do strength and training, cross training. However you do that, whether it's running, swimming, weights, whatever, you just got to do other stuff besides just the one sport you're doing, stretching, yoga, just, there's like agility ladders, battle ropes, skipping. There's so many different exercises you can do. You just need to cross train more, so you're building other muscle groups besides the exact ones you'll be doing when you just do your one sport, like running or whatever you're doing, swimming. You need to do other aspects that build muscle groups that you wouldn't usually use. So you need to build that strength in that. And you need to learn to obviously push through levels of fatigue. So you don't get physically stronger if you're not pushing yourself in training. You need to find those spots when you're tired and you're like, oh my god, I'm done here, and that's when you go like, right, I've got to do another set, or I've got to do another strike, or another, whatever it is. You're just going to keep pushing that boundary up, and that's how you physically learn to get stronger. So if you're always just, as soon as you're tired and done, like, right, time for a stop, I've got to drink, I'm tired, you're always just sitting there. But if every time you get to that point, you're like, nah, I'm at least got to do another couple of reps or another half an hour or whatever it is, and just keep building and building. That's what builds the physical conditioning, okay? You got to keep learning to push past those points. And it takes time to build. Like you're not going to get it in, one program, one stint. You'll get stronger towards that race if you do like a program or build up to a certain event. You'll get stronger for that event, but to continually keep rising, you got to keep building off that one, take months, years, and then eventually the conditioning allows you to adapt to these bigger challenges, and then you can keep pushing that training, and that's what physically makes you keep growing stronger. So that's part of the aspect I think is a big part, the physical conditioning. I believe it's nearly more than the mental, to be honest. Like the mental's there when you get fatigued and tired. We'll go into that now. So the mental conditioning is, yeah, it's a major aspect, obviously. I think it's more to do with the meditation, the mind, and understanding your own mind, because everyone's different. Everyone's going to have things that, triggers in your brain and things that, make you want to quit, stop, or whatever. So you got to understand your own self and understand those triggers that are causing you to, or that point when you don't want to keep going past. And it's just like I said with the physical, you got to keep pushing your mind and to those limits, and then keep just searching inside to get a little bit more out of it. So, I believe meditation is good to help you calm with the stress. Learn practices, yoga, things like that you can learn to reset, stay present. When you start really flipping out, and because it gets a struggle, which it will when you're doing tough challenges, is you got to learn to stay present, reset, okay, and acknowledge that you're sore, tired, you're fatigued, but you just keep using that mind to understand, right, okay, that's hurt, acknowledge that, but then just stay with it and understand that it will turn around. And unless it's an injury or a health issue, they're different aspects. That's another thing in itself. But if it's just you're tired and you're sore or whatever, and it sucks, and you haven't slept, or whatever, you got to just keep staying present and just keep focusing on what you need to do and what you can do. Okay, there's no point thinking too far out of that's the other thing. If you start thinking about how far you got to go, or what your goals is. So say for example you've done 15-20 hours, but you want to go for 50 hours. If you keep thinking about 50 hours when you're only at 20 hours, it mentally can wreck you. So you want to think, okay, I still want to go to 50 hours, but at the moment we're on 20 hours, so let's just focus on that. What do we need to do? Eat, drink, okay, go back out. If my leg's sore, okay, give it a bit of a rub. And then you just keep moving forward. Don't think too far ahead. So that's a big aspect. What else do I think with the mind? It takes time as well. So understand my conditioning will be different to yours. The mental side will be different to yours. So just keep practicing, pushing that little limit. Like I just said, understand that your physical and mental are both tied into each other. So you need to know that unless you keep pressing against it, keep doing hard trainings, doing hard drills, you won't rise to that next level. So that's the key element. Understand it takes time, and they're locked into each other. So one without the other, you're finished. Like people always say, like I said just a second ago, people think it's all mental. It's not all mental, because if you're not physically strong, doesn't matter how much you're like, I'm tough, I can keep going, you won't go. Your legs don't move, you can't move. And the same as if your legs are strong but your mind's weak. So it's both joined together. So now I'm going to go into, for me, this is going to be more on my experience and what I've learned with the sleep deprivation. So especially with the backyard ultras, when you start getting over, or even for someone that, I'm good for 48 hours, easy, no sleep, but because I've conditioned, like I said, with the mental and physical before, so I know how to get through that. But someone that hasn't even stayed awake for 24 hours before, this is the same ballpark. So that everyone's different, like I said. So with the sleep deprivation, if you go too far, down the rabbit hole of no sleep, which I have done and everyone's aware that I've done multiple times, is it's hard to reason with yourself. Your brain doesn't work properly. So when you start suffering, things start going wrong, your brain won't work correctly to be able to stay present, to reset and go, it's all, because your brain is just so sleep deprived. That's why people crash off the highway, because you just can't think, you just fall asleep. It's a major element, especially in the backyard ultras, is it must be worked on. For me, it's been my biggest downfall lately. I've got to keep working on getting my micro naps in. I've realised now I've got to do maybe a few more faster laps. I've got to get back quicker at night on a few more laps like I see some of the other guys do, so that I get a bit more sleep, because when I'm rolling into that 72-hour mark now, the 3-day mark for me, no sleep, this is what's happening. I can't function properly. Other things, areas that are already been playing up over the time, it just all gets worse and worse inside the mind, and you just can't reason with yourself. So it's really got to be an element to go deep in the Backyard Ultra. You have to learn that meditation, because you're not always going to get big sleep either. So it's not always about getting back fast so you got 20-30 minutes sleep, because it's just not possible all the time, because you just wreck yourself. So even if it's only 2 minutes, you got to learn to come in. So this is another thing that I tell people is, you got to have your headphones on, your noise cancelling headphones with like meditation music, relaxing, peaceful, just things to shut out the noise of everyone else, or whatever, all the noise that's around you, so you can just go straight into deep trance and try to get shut off and get as much sleep as possible. Even if it's 30 seconds, a minute, you just got to keep doing that, and that's what's going to help you slowly rebuild and just give your brain enough time to switch off. Because when you're running, it's always, even if unless it's a full flat course, you're burning energy by looking at routes, and that's what happened the last one. You're constantly scanning stuff and then not getting enough sleep. You just can't focus, and then you're just burning too much energy instead of resting that mind. So yeah, the sleep is definitely part of it. What's another thing? So yeah, I think with the yoga, like I said, and those kind of practices will help you learn to do that. So do some research into some study with meditation practices, and how they do it, whether it's breath work. You got to learn to, like, when the voice comes into your head, any voice, this is not a bad voice, I mean just noise coming in, the monkey mind coming in, you got to learn to shut off and recenter. A little thing I like to do is just, if I've got a music playing in my ear, if it's a rain music, I just try to go to the rainforest where it's at, and anytime a thought comes into my mind, I just recenter straight back to water or the bird, and just so I'm just straight into that nature, and just drumming out any other voice in my head, and I'm just staying present and just allowing myself to drift off. So that's, for me, that's an aspect that I do. Everyone might find their own different strategy. The other aspect in long distance, big events, last one standing, is nutrition. Once again, this is my experience of, the nutrition and the sleep has broke me a few times in past events. Got to make sure you keep the calories in. So you got to, whether it's your electrolyte drinks, food, you got to just constantly keep pushing it in. Even if you don't feel like it, you got to find something that goes in each hour, half an hour, just something, so your body's getting used to eating. I think, to me personally, when you're doing big challenges and you're out there for a long time, as much real food as possible is the better. All those electrolyte drinks, and to keep them going in, but just your sugar hits, and they're only short-lived. Unless you're smashing copious amounts of it, you're not getting enough anyway, and it also burns quickly. So if you can have normal foods and carry them in your camelback or in between the laps of Backyard, smashing your normal lunch, dinners, breakfasts, and then just use the other few as top-ups, extras, you're going to run a lot more smoothly, and you're going to be able to last longer, have more energy, and then use your energy on other aspects like the sleep, the mind, and just, so you don't have to worry about that. You just keep on top of the nutrition. So personal experience like that, I fell behind them on multiple times, and all of a sudden, you're spewing, you can't get food in, and it's like the sleep. Once you've pushed too far behind on the nutrition and sleep, it's nearly impossible to catch up. You can try, but if you go too far over the red zone of it, it's so hard to come back from, because people go, just eat something, but you've already been too many hours without food, so as soon as you eat, you're throwing up, you can't stomach it, your body's already spiraled. So it's like the sleep. As soon as you're sleep deprived, everyone's like, just come in and shut off and get some sleep. But if you're already too cooked, you'll do it, but you're just so far behind. It's so hard to catch back up. So it's important to keep on top of that from the beginning. And then the final thing I'll just talk about today, because I've probably already been rambling a bit, but I wanted to go through, basically those categories that I use for these big events, is the end of it. So at the end challenge, even if you've reached the goal or you didn't reach your goal, you got to use that, the event and what you've done, and analyze it. For me, I'm my worst critic. I go through everything, whether I win it or lose it. I study on things I should have improved, or I've got to improve on things I did wrong, and then just work on ways to, how to get better on it. There's no point being negative and, be your hard critic, I should have done that, but you can't dwell on it. You got to straight away get back up. It's like in a fight, if I get knocked down, you got to get straight back up or it's over. So, and you just keep spiraling downhill. It's like the nutrition that it's hard to come back from. You got to make sure if you fall off the horse, so to speak, like I said, you got to get back on it. You got to, find another challenge, and then utilize what you went wrong to try to do it again. So for me, I just come off the Sydney Backyard Ultra, run 500 plus kilometers, and it didn't go as well as planned. It was still it was still a good effort, but for me, it wasn't good enough. So that's not what I wanted. That wasn't my goal. So I studied and worked on the areas that I stuffed up in. I did a few simple errors that I should have done and I should have known to do better. And that cost me my race pretty much. So what I'm getting at is I've now got down under next week. So instead of just waiting, I've got Dead Cow Gully coming up. Like I was always planning on doing down under, but I still like to, chuck myself in challenge after challenge so I can learn from my mistakes, keep building stronger and build your conditioning mentally and physically so I become harder and harder, and then I don't let these things happen that have broken me before, and I can keep practicing rising to the next level. So for me, that's it works best. It's only my take on things. I find the more challenges you can throw yourself into, the better you'll be. It's not always about the win. So that's the other thing. Depends on what you do it for. If you always want to be the hero and be the winner and whatever, then I guess you got to pick just a couple of events a year and just pick the ones that mean the most to you, so you can just train specifically for that to get the results. But I started here and there doing things like that, and then I just realized that for me it's just about the journey, and whether I win or lose, it doesn't matter as long as I keep trying my best and keep learning and evolving. And then so that's why I do all the challenges I do, because the actual trophy, I've got plenty of them up there, they just collect dust. So unless I know I've done everything I can to be the best, then the trophy means nothing. So what else? So just also as well realize that there always will be someone better. So just because you win, or whatever, like just realize that, that was your day, you did a good job, but stay humble. Don't allow yourself to think you're better than anyone else. So whether, if I'm running with an elite, I don't think of him any better than the person that drops out first. I want to make sure that I treat everyone equal. We're all out here trying our best. I'm not better than anyone else. Yeah, I might run further, whatever, but like I said, that's just from the stuff I went through. I'm conditioned. I've got my own journey. I've got my own goals. So I think and respect everyone out there is equal. So stay humble. Don't matter how good you are. Like I said, there's always someone that's going to be better. Someone that's going to have a better day. So the quicker you accept that, the quicker you realize that it's not about the win. So that's where a lot of athletes still go wrong. It's that ego side, so to speak. So, but that's their journey and you got to just do yours. So yeah, that's basically the rundown on, today's episode anyway, so to speak. So I'm going to start doing some more. So if anyone else, after watching this has something they want me to start, talking about in the future, I'll take it on board, and maybe the next episode we'll do that. So anyway, I hope it's a bit of advice that people can get out of it to help them run better, because at the end of the day, I'm not doing me and putting my post up so I can tell you how good I am. I want you to start finding out how good you are, and if these tips can help, then that's what it's all about. So anyway, thanks for listening.